Hey Sewing Report Squad, we're doing something really special in this edition. We're getting to know one of my favorite quilters on Instagram. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jennifer Moore, helping you discover your love of sewing. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to subscribe to this channel. And we are talking to Justin, aka Keaton Quilts right now. We're going to find out a lot more about Justin and all about his quilting process. So Justin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Huge fan of the Sewing Report.
Okay, my first question, when and how did you start sewing?
I started sewing around 12 years old. My mom had an old sewing machine set up and all these scraps of fabric. She hadn't done it for years, maybe probably since I was a baby, but she carried it with her whenever we moved. And one day I sat down and I asked her how it worked, and I just started sewing. And before you knew it, I had my first quilt top. And I took that over to my grandma, who was a quilter, and she showed me how to baste all the layers together of the quilt sandwich, and then how to hand quilt it. Now, I never did finish that first quilt, but one day, I think I will.
What's your favorite thing about sewing?
My favorite thing about sewing, for me it's my main creative outlet. You know, I'm able to get all these ideas and all this inspiration and mix it all together and come out with something functional, you know, like a blanket where it's art you can cuddle with. My little tagline.
Worst thing about sewing?
The worst thing about sewing for me is when I make a mistake early on in a project and I don't catch it until the end. Just because it's so much work fixing that mistake, whereas if I caught it early on, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But since it's the end of the project, you know, you gotta go through, you gotta take out all these pieces, take them apart, and I would say that when that happens, that's I don't enjoy that. It happens a lot less now these days that I have all this experience, not as much as the beginning, but yeah, it still happens occasionally.
Can you describe your quilting style?
I would say it's really hard to define my quilting style, just because it's always changing. I always finding a new fabric or a new type of pattern or technique to use, and I fold that into my work. And so I would just say that my quilting style is ever changing, ever evolving, and hopefully for the better.
What sewing machines do you use?
Right now I'm using a Bernina B560 and I love it. It's amazing. I definitely love that auto thread cutter feature it has. I used to have this ball of thread trimming sitting next to my sewing machine, and it was forever growing and getting all over my clothes, and I'd be trailing it around the house, and with the auto thread cutter it just doesn't happen anymore. So that's amazing, life-changing feature. Before my Bernina, I had a Viking Husqvarna #1 Plus. I had made these bag holders when I was a kid. They were a little animal with a dress, and you would place the bags up into the dress to hold them, and I sold a ton of them, and I think I'd saved up almost $1,000, and so yeah, I bought this used Viking machine, and it was when the machines, they were all super sturdy and made of metal, and you know, it just lasted me all those years, and I love it. I'll never get rid of it.
That is awesome. What is your favorite fabric line of all time?
That definitely has to be Liberty of London and Tana Lawns. I love them so much. They're super vibrant, they're super soft, and they just have this feel to them. They just feel so fancy.
All right, let's talk music. What's on your playlist while you quilt?
I feel like the song that I'm singing while quilting, it changes so often every few days. I know there's a video on my Instagram of me singing, what was it? Bad Things with Camila Cabello and Machine Gun Kelly. I really like that for a while, but when I'm quilting, I usually listen to the same song over and over on repeat, you know, just to stay focused. And by the time that was worn out, I knew every beat of that song, and I was singing it like full out.
For people who know nothing about the quilting industry, how does someone make a living at it?
That's a great question. I guess I do it all. I teach private lessons. I teach classes at Gotham Quilts. I teach lectures, workshops. I also take on commissions. I make quilts for people. I have an Etsy shop, and I'll have my own line of patterns coming out soon, which I'm really excited about. I can't wait to share all those with you.
Now, I understand your company Keaton Quilts has a unique management structure. Tell me more about your CEO.
We definitely have a unique structure. It's a 2-employee business. Me, who does all the labor, all of the creative, basically everything. And then my other employee, who has actually been sitting in my lap this entire time, Miss Diane Keaton, she is the CEO, and she basically snoozes and begs for pets throughout the day.
You've been very fortunate that your commissioned quilts command a high price, something that very few quilters have accomplished. What's your secret?
You know, I wouldn't say that my quilts command a high price. I would say they command a fair price. I have thousands of dollars worth of tools, probably thousands of dollars just worth of rulers. You know, you could separate that out, thousands worth of thread, thousands worth of rulers, and thousands upon $1,000 worth of fabric. My machine costs several $1,000s. And so I have a huge investment that I have to make. And then you add in the time that it takes to make the quilts, and just coming up with the ideas and deciding on a layout takes hours and hours. And I'm also a perfectionist, so I will be that person who will go and take out something right before the last step of a finish. And again, hours upon hours added into it. And so if you divided all that up and you took all my materials and the time that I spend making my quilts, I truly believe in the end, it's just a fair price.
Do you feel quilts should be considered a luxury item?
I definitely think quilts are a luxury item. You can't really compare them to, a blanket that you bought in Target. I mean, it doesn't have a personality to it. That's something that is a one-of-a-kind item made by someone that they put their heart and soul into, and maybe months of their life. It's art. It's beautiful, and it's very different from a functional object. I definitely think that it's a luxury item. Yeah.
Now, as a male in a female-dominated arena, has this presented any challenges for you?
No, I don't think it's had any negative effect on my career. I think it's different being a guy quilter, but yeah, no negative experiences.
Where would you like to see the quilting community head?
I'm not sure. I would say I would love to continue to attract like a younger audience, people my age or younger. Whenever I teach my intro to quilting class at Gotham Quilts, I love it when I have young people in the class, just seeing that, young people are quilting, just because I feel like quilting is one of those things you need someone to teach it to you, and it could one day, just eventually come to an end. I feel like calligraphy is a great example of something like that, something that people do by hand that, I hope the tradition of quilting continues. And so yeah, I would hope to see a lot of younger people doing it.
Justin, do you have any thoughts or ideas on how to attract new quilters into this space?
In all of the, the quilting promotional materials and everything I see, the TV shows, it's generally geared to maybe an older person, an older consumer. So I might like to see, quilting companies switching up their marketing and trying to target a younger audience. I think that'd be awesome. That'd be exciting. Spreading the word about quilting, with the Sewing Report and being on Instagram. I'm also on Instagram, and yeah, just spreading the word that, sewing is cool, quilting's cool.
Last question, what kind of goals do you have for your quilting career?
I love setting goals for myself. Since I started quilting, I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I try to sew and quilt every single day. just keeping up the momentum. I never want to go a few days without making. I never want to fall out of it, you know. I get really busy doing my quilting lessons, and I definitely try to make time for myself always to sew, because just sewing at a constant, it helps me evolve and, you know, hone in my skills. Short-term goals, definitely just to finish all the unfinished projects that I've got going. Also, I want to make an awesome ocean. Elizabeth Partman came out with that awesome pattern, and it's beautiful. So I definitely want to make one of those using Liberty of London. My line of patterns, I have those coming out. That's been a huge goal of mine, is to finally get to work on these patterns and get them all ready, and I can't wait to show everyone.
Justin and Diane, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
And for those of you watching, if you'd like to learn more about Justin and his work, you can check him out on Instagram at Keaton Quilts or on his website, KeatonQuilts.com. And let me know what you think of this video. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments. Also, what other quilters do you follow on Instagram? I will see you next time for another edition of the Sewing Report.
I love quilting. I try to sew and quilt every single day. I'm a huge fan of the Sewing Report.